I'd say persistence. The amount of people that have told me, oh, look, you had a shot, give up. Like I say, I wrote this film 15 years ago. I did persist with it, and I did always had faith I'd get it done, and I'd worked. And also, don't be afraid about making mistakes, and certainly don't be afraid about making a bad film. I've made some awful stuff in the past. Shepherd, I'm really, really proud of. But a bad film isn't the end of a career at all. It's part of a career. If you make something cheesy, which is just what you learn from everything. The mistakes are just as important. The more you do, the better you're going to get, and I've certainly learned that.
Hello, welcome to Film Forums. My name is Millie Hayward. I'm a recent screenwriting graduate, and today I have a very special guest with me. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Russell Owen, and I'm the writer and director of Shepherd.
So Russell, can you tell us a bit about your background in filmmaking? Did you go to film school, for instance?
I actually went to art college. I used to be able to draw quite well, and I wanted to be a comic book artist. That was my dream. I loved writing stories and I loved drawing, but I ended up being a storyboard artist for other directors, and the paper didn't feel substantial enough, and I was always massively intrigued by the three-dimensional world of filmmaking in that sense, and collaborating with other people to make something. So it started there. And then eventually sold my car, made my first short film as a writer and director. Obviously always storyboarded my own stuff. And then eventually went into art direction for TV for a long time, which kind of sent me off down a wrong sort of path. But I learned a lot about staging and lighting and cameras. Then got back on track, directing commercials and some more short films. Before somebody saw one of my short films and asked if I could jump on and replace a director that had dropped out on a feature it was about to shoot. And I said I'd do it for free if they would put Shepherd on their slate as the project to follow on from that, which is what they did. And I finally made it, which I wrote it about 15 years ago. So persistence.
Oh wow, so about 15 years ago. That's quite a long time actually. So it's taken sort of a lot of time to get it together and go through the whole process of getting it filmed.
Yeah, it was, obviously I've tried everything from, pitching studios and sales agents and all the rest of it. But if you're not anyone, they very rarely listen to you unless you've got some, very, very high-end introduction where they might take you seriously. So so any opportunity, the first opportunity that came along to do it, I cheekily asked if they would make it, and then I would do it for free. And I think that those words "for free" were a big sell to them.
Yeah.
and the rest of their slate was lots of sort of B-movie DVD stuff, and so they thankfully were quite impressed with the script.
Oh, awesome. That's amazing. I know when I watched Shepherd, I thought it was absolutely amazing. You're right, the script was brilliant. I really love sort of the horror thriller essence to it. So can you tell us a bit about what Shepherd is about and how the project, well, I know you've told us a bit about how the project started, but how long did it take to film as well?
So Shepherd is completely coincidentally based on the same story that Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse is based on, which is about the Smalls Lighthouse in Wales, which is where I grew up, not on the island, but not far from there in Wales. And so we grew up knowing that story and hearing that story, and that's where the origins of it came from, the isolation and also a response to those adverts that you get in the back of newspapers, and 10,000 people apply for the ideal job alone on an island somewhere. And I thought, well, isolation isn't exactly, an idyllic, that it can be a horror film as well. And so that's where it started and grew from there. And then eventually when I got it financed, we started in 2019 before the pandemic, filming on the Isle of Mull. We travelled up and down the length of the country trying to find the perfect location, and the Isle of Mull was just magical, but it was the far end of the island where we filmed was a really difficult place to get to. With trucks and everything, there's tiny little bridges and all the rest of it. But we eventually managed to get out there. We managed to build the cottage set and the base of the lighthouse, and we took a model lighthouse out there for the rest of the shots. And it took about 7 weeks filming. including filming on the mainland in Glasgow at the Dumbarton Studios, BBC Studios outside Glasgow, and then the pandemic hit. So there were still scenes outstanding, and we'd run out of budget quite early because tons of things got in the way. So we had to raise money again. So it was a long slog, but at one point they were going to ditch the project because they just couldn't raise the rest of the money, and they had loads of bills to pay. But I persisted and managed to get a little bit of money to finish the post and all sorts, and eventually we managed to sort of push through. So it was quite a tough one and a journey. But I mean, between action and cut, everything was great. I mean, it was amazing because something I'd had in my head for so many years had sort of come to life.
Yeah, no, that sounds like such a challenging journey, sort of going from filming to then we're hit with a pandemic and everything. I was going to say, I can't believe that it was quite interesting how you said the lighthouse was actually, some of the shots were like a model you made. I think that's really awesome.
No, it's a 7-foot model made by Lee Took, who actually he's quite a famous model maker. He made models for Da Vinci Code and Batman and all sorts of stuff. So he's really well-known model maker, and it was a beautiful model. It's really, really big though. I mean, unfortunately I can't get it in my flat.
I know, I'll be hunting for room. So I know also, there's been mentioned, Mark Kermode gave Shepard his Film of the Week recommendation in the popular Kermode and Mayo film review programme. Can I ask, how did you find out about that? Do the BBC sort of inform you, or do you find out at the same time as everyone else? Or how does that work?
I found out at the same time as everyone else. I mean, I was quite surprised. I think it was about 20 minutes before Wes, who runs the PR for the film in the UK, just texted and said, "Oh, it's watch BBC Film Review tonight, and also watch and listen to Mark Kermode and Mayo." And I couldn't believe it. There were so many great films coming out that week. I mean, you very rarely mention, you usually about 20 films a week, whatever it is coming out. The thought that we'd even make his show, and then for the reviews to be really positive, and then for it to be Film of the Week was, I mean, that was like winning an Oscar. I was over the moon. Because I watch his show and listen to his podcasts all the time. I sort of value his opinion a lot. So but I had this assumption in my head that it wouldn't like my work. So yeah, I was over the moon.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible to sort of have like a shout out like that. When it comes to, I want to ask you more about sort of the script writing process as well, because I'm a writer and I love writing, and I have so many questions on sort of writing and even directing as well. But when it comes to the writing process, do you have any advice on when it comes to writing treatments or say finishing a script? Because I know sometimes I find it quite hard to, when you have an idea for something and then it's actually completing a script, it can be quite tricky at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for everybody. I mean, I just push through, and I love writing, and if I've got an idea, I just tend to write without the research to start off with, and just fire through. So I've got the idea out on paper and it's done, because that's the toughest part. And then you go through with a fine-tooth comb. I go back over all my characters, I rework them and rewrite them, and then I rewrite the script a million times from one character's point of view, from another character's point of view. Does this scenario fit them? Are they the right fit for the story? So it's a long, laborious process, but I'm Shepard's simple because, I mean, it's only a handful of characters, so it was easier and they all had a very specific job. But I've written about 12 other scripts. I mean, waiting 15 years to get Shepard made, you end up going off and trying other things. And then once you're really happy with the script and the structure and the characters, and you're saying something that you want to say, I think by that point, you'll know the story inside out. So it should be easy to do a very quick one-sentence pitch for the script. And strip it down to its bare essentials. So starting with the script and really angsting and playing around with it and thinking about it from all the different characters' points of view and the like. And also from an audience point of view, are they going to, if you're seeing this for the first time, are you really going to be intrigued? Because sometimes, I mean, it's really easy to sit there and be self-indulgent and go, well, of course, this is amazing. It's like, well, actually, Joe Bloggs might not like it and Jane Doe might not like it. So it's got to sit back and assess and go, well, no, this needs a bit of a lift here, and there's too much dialogue here, and you need to get through and get the story out here. But yeah, writing treatments, when you write treatments, keep them really sharp, simple, keep the idea really, really intriguing with a little bit of, you want people to get back to you. So you have to add a bit of mystery and really, show them, also show them and demonstrate in a treatment that, you've thoroughly done your research. There isn't much left to do. This is ready to go. Because people, if they are looking for something, they're looking for something which is ready. Because 9 times out of 10, if somebody's interested, they're not just going to put you on a back burner. They'll go, well, actually, we're ready to do something. So let's see a script, let's see this, let's see that. I would, back in the day, you could write a treatment and then they'll give you some money for script, come back next year, and I haven't found that. I haven't been lucky enough to find that. You have to do all the work up front.
Oh, right. Okay. No, thank you so much. That's so useful as well. Another question I have is when it comes to sort of the film's budget, how did you, I know you touched on it earlier, but how did you get funding for the project exactly?
Well, it was all private equity. I mean, I was really lucky to get the film in the BFI London Film Festival, but in the past, when I hadn't had a producer, I was my own person. I'd had worked with people who were aspiring to be producers, and then it didn't work out. So we'd filled out forms for public funding and all the rest of it, and it takes a very long time, and the amount of money that you get isn't very much, and usually public bodies prefer it if you are from a certain film school and you're recommended by a certain person and there's the right contacts. And I didn't come from that background at all. So in the end, I mean, having made a short film and a producer had seen the work that I'd done and gave me the opportunity to direct this other feature, and I turned it around on them and said, well, if you finance Shepherd as your next film, then I'll absolutely do it for free. And they read the script and they loved it. So I think that's an unusual way of doing things, but it was, and also I don't think a lot of filmmakers would have the guts to be that cheeky up front when they're being asked to direct their a feature film, which doesn't, those opportunities don't come along very often for people who've only just done shorts and commercials, to then turn around and say, I'll do it if you do this. But luckily it worked in my case. So it was all private money. But hopefully it'll put me on the map to make things easier in future. I say that, touch wood. Everybody says, it doesn't matter how well you do, each film is always starting from scratch.
No, exactly. I completely agree. I know sometimes when it comes to trying to make a film, it is about sort of pushing those right doors open and sort of keeping on trying. But no, I think it's really good that you sort of, just by going through this company and just sort of emailing them and seeing like it obviously works. So no, that's fantastic. I've got a last question for you. What would be your overall advice for other filmmakers who want to get into the industry?
I'd say persistence. The amount of people that have told me, oh, look, you had a shot, give up. I mean, like I say, I wrote this film 15 years ago. I did persist with it, and I did always had faith I'd get it done, and I'd worked. And also, don't be afraid about making mistakes, and certainly don't be afraid about making a bad film. I've made some awful stuff in the past. Shepherd, I'm really, really proud of. But a bad film isn't the end of a career at all. It's part of a career. If you make something cheesy, which is just you learn from everything. The mistakes are just as important. The more you do, the better you're going to get. And I've certainly learned that. And when it came to Shepherd, I managed to put everything that I'd learned from my mistakes in the past and doing all the commercials that I'd done to good use, and we did have a good length of time to be able to cut it and cut out the mistakes, and and don't regret anything that you do as you progress to try and make your first feature. Everything helps towards it, and there isn't a wrong or a right path. Everybody has a completely different path.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's always, as you're making films, it's like a learning curve, isn't it? And you're always learning something all the time. But no, thank you so much. Your advice has been absolutely amazing. And the film is absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for your time. You've been brilliant. Thank you.